Hey there, no need to go buy 100 stamp sets. Today I'm going to create 9 different cards using the same stamp set. I also made a major boo-boo on a card and we worked through it together and fixed it, so be sure to hang with me till the end. Let's get to it. All right, so we are going to use the stamp set. It's Christmas Florals and the coordinating dies from Concord and Ninth, and we're using it today on all 9 cards. So the first thing I'm going to do is take a piece of red cardstock, and I'm going to mount that big image right there, which I love. It's got that huge cluster of all the poinsettias and the berries with the word Christmas all in there. No masking required because the stamp did it all for you. I'm going to ink it up with my Wow Embossing Ink Pad. And I am using my MISTI stamping tool quite a bit for today's cards, but you don't have to if you don't have it and you have acrylic block. So once I've gone ahead and inked that up with the embossing ink, I'm going to sprinkle on some embossing powder by Wow. All the supplies I am using are linked below down in the description for you. And if you're not a subscriber, click, 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 click and subscribe. So I am just pouring on that powder. Then I'll take the scratch paper and funnel the extra powder back into the jar and just look at this melt. Ah, I love watching embossing powder melt. Isn't it something magical about it? This color is especially pretty. It's copper, I believe, metallic copper from Wow. Again, be linked below. I'm going to use the Wow Embossing Pen. It's just basically a pen filled with that same embossing ink, but I'm using it almost like a watermark. I'm just going in and coloring in some of the petals and the berries, and it's just going to make the cardstock a little bit of a deeper color, of the same color of the cardstock, but it's just a little bit deeper, adds a little bit of shadowing, if you will, for a very simple card, because this basically is heat embossing, and that's pretty much it for the first card. But I even have an easier card than this in the video that probably took 20 seconds. Just wait for it. Wait for it. So here's a look at this card. And you can actually see the shadows in those petals there very nicely. All right, moving on to the next card. Did the same thing, inked up the stamp with that embossing ink. And this time I'm sprinkling on some black embossing powder from Wow, and then I heat set that. And here is one of the coordinating dies that comes with the die set. And I'm just going to go ahead and line that up. I'm using my purple tape, which is everything. Purple tape, purple tape, purple tape. And I'm just lining everything up. And this Christmas die is so cool. And it actually can cut out just the letters, and you don't have to use it with the stamp set if you don't wanna. All right, so once I ran that through my Gemini off screen, I've got all the bits left. I'm grabbing some of this paper from Altenew and cutting it down to size. And then I've gone ahead and temporarily taped that image there onto my cardstock, and I'm going to go in with my Nuvo Deluxe glue. It's the best glue, liquid glue ever out there, period, hands down. And I filled in all the letters, and now I'm going to go in and piece in all the letters. And so basically that panel that I taped down is like my placeholder. So I'm able to fit this all in like a puzzle. And I'm doing this because I want to add some dimension to this card. So once I've got my letters in place, I will peel that up, remove the purple tape, then add a heap ton of double-sided foam dimension. And I love the Scotch roll because you can just tear it with your fingers and then you peel off the backing paper. You don't have to get any scissors out and cut it. I'm so lazy, so I like that I don't have to do that step. Then I'm able to look at my frizzy head. Oh, good Lord. So I'm able to adhere that down right over the top and check that out. I am going in with a little bit of clear glitter. This is from Nuvo, and adding a little bit of clear glitter to the petals and here and there and everywhere. And so with the embossing powder and the glitter pen, this card is quite sparkly, I must say. But wait, let's add a little more, and I'm going to add some crystal glaze. It's Nuvo's kind of like glossy accents, but it's by Nuvo, and it's better in my opinion. I like the bottle way better. And so I'm adding that to the berries as well. And then I swear that's all I'm going to add to this card. It's like Laurel. You got to know when to stop. Kind of like when I'm putting on my makeup. You got to know when to stop, and it's important to put your makeup on with a light on. Trust me. All right, so here's a look at this card. It's sparkly. It's just so much going on, and it's not traditional Christmas colors. You don't have to do red and green if you don't want to. Okay, I stamped the exact image the same way with the same embossing powders, but this time on watercolored cardstock. So I'm going ahead and drying that, and then I'm going to take this cool little nifty I don't even know what we're calling them. I forget, but it will be linked below. And I got a sampler pack. It's got a chisel tip, a broad tip, and a round tip. And I'm going in with a couple different colors. Well, not a couple. There's 4 there. Catherine Pooler inks. And I'm just going in and adding in some color here. Very quick, very easy. Nothing perfect. I didn't want smooth blending. I almost wanted it to look like a little tie-dye effect, if you will. That's the look I was kind of going for. And to remove the ink, I'm just scribbling it off on some scratch paper, which is actually the back side of the MISTI paper that I used for funneling in my embossing powders. A way to reuse that stuff, right? So here I am going in with pink, red, green, and we're just going to give this a little color. I'm going to add, use a couple of the different tips where I feel like I need it. For the berries, I use the fine tip. For the poinsettias, I used the round tip. You get where I'm going with this. And my dog barked. Okay, back to the video. So once I got all the color down, I decided, now remember, I did heat emboss and do all this stuff. This is watercolored cardstock. So what I did was I took the tip of those blending tools that I'm using and added a little bit of water to it, and I did a little bit of blending here. So that's actually, that tip is got some water on it. There's a little puddle on my glass mat that you can't see, and it just kind of blended it out a little bit more, and I thought it was really pretty. So I'm going to take the negative space of the other card we made where we die cut it, the card with the stripes. This was the leftover piece from that die cut. So I'm going to take it and I'm putting it on this card. Look at me reusing stuff, and I'm just rocking and rolling here. So once I got that down, I did use my liquid glue because I have a little bit of wiggle room before it dries, so I'm able to make sure that that is perfectly lined up before the glue sets in. And then I went ahead and heat embossed a little word there, all from the same stamp set with the same embossing ink powder, and we are done. Wada bang, wada boom. Moving on. This is a really long video for me, by the way. Whew. Take a look at this card. Pretty, 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 pretty. Now don't worry, we are going to use some of the smaller images from the stamp set. I'm not just going to make a bunch of cards with this one stamp. So if you hang with me, you'll see what I mean. This is some beautiful ink from Catherine Pooler. Her inks are water reactive. So wait for it. Not only are they water reactive, but they stay wet a little bit longer, so you can heat emboss with them too. So the first one I just stamped with the ink onto watercolored cardstock, set it aside. This one I did the same thing, but this time I'm sprinkling on some clear embossing powder and heat setting it. So boom, custom colored embossing powder right here. All right, so let's take the panel that I just stamped with the spruce ink. I did nothing else. I simply stamped it. I'm going to take some water. I'm going to spray it, and this card is done. What are we talking about, 11 seconds? I mean, seriously. Hello? Boom! Don't you like that? Think about the mass production. Just use different color Catherine Pooler inks, and you've got, like, you can whip out 100 cards in like 20 minutes. I'm just digging it. I love it. All right, moving on to the other one where we stamped the ink, the same colored ink, spruce, and we heat embossed it. All right, this time I'm going to take some ink and I'm going to smush it onto my glass surface. Samba and Party Dress, the red and the pink. I kind of blended the two colors together with my paintbrush, and all I'm doing is adding some color to the center of the flowers. That's it. Doesn't take any skill whatsoever. Get your kids involved right here. Have them go through, do an assembly line and add a little color to the middle of the flowers. Take some water, spray it. Do the same thing with the green, spray it, and wada bang, wada boom. What you think? Right? These inks are everything. So that was, you know, the heat embossed spruce ink, Samba, Party Dress, and a cute little sentiment strip right there on the top that ties the whole card together. Then I took the same two ink colors that were on my craft surface, and I am pressing this panel right into my card. This is where we black heat embossed onto watercolored cardstock. And you know the drill. This one's done, right? Well, I need a sentiment, so I'm going to actually kind of catty corner stamp the Mary right here. Same color ink, and we are good to go on this card. So take a look. Easy, right? All right, Laurel. Enough of that one stamped image. Let's go with some of the other images in the stamp set. So here I'm going to take the single poinsettia and I'm going to stamp it with Party Dress 3 different ways onto a piece of regular cardstock. This is not watercolored cardstock or anything like that. And I'm going to clean as I go, because if I don't, I get my fingerprints all over my cards and then I get mad. So I'm going to stamp Merry Christmas, get my frizzy head out of the way, and that beautiful spruce ink. And this card doesn't need much. You could actually leave it like that if you wanted to, but I'm going to add a little bit of coloring with my Altenew alcohol ink markers. I am not a good alcohol ink colorist, so I'm not going to show, I mean, I am just laying down some color. I could have done this with my Crayolas or whatever you've got, colored pencils, crayons, whatever you want to do. But I'm just going in with a couple different colors of the that I have in the kind of red to pink family from Altenew, and then just adding the color. Really not much to it. I'm trying to create a little shading with the marker with the same color just by going over the same area a couple of times, but like I said, I'm not really good with these markers, and I don't pretend that I am. Once I got the color down just on the floral part, I'm going to go in with a very light blue marker, and I'm just going to add a faint blue background. Very simple. I could have done this with some ink blending, but I wanted actually the brush or the marker strokes, the pen strokes, the tip strokes, whatever we're calling it here. Just a beautiful background right there. And then just to finish it off, because this card is pretty simple, I'm using some Nuvo Stone Drops, which is what I'm putting down now. And then I'm going to add another Nuvo drop. This is from the Crystal Glaze line, and I'm actually going to combine it together, and I'm going to blend it with my finger. It's free. That's a free tool right there you've got in your possession. Blending it out with my finger, and it really pulled everything together. And I did flick on some white paint. I did not capture that on camera, but I did flick on a little bit of that because, you know, this card was pretty simple, so I thought the white paint would give it the look of snow. That's what I was going with. Okay, now here's another card using the little leaf and berries. I'm going to create my own background, if you will. So I'm going to stamp spruce. I'm using all the same ink colors because I wanted to show you didn't even have a billion ink colors either to create really pretty cards. So I stamped the little fern. What is that? A fern leaf. Then I'm going to go in with the berries. Then I'm going to go in with the little twiggy thing, and I'm going to create this pretty little background. Now, the tip I have for you when you're creating your own background with stamps is don't be afraid to put your stamps in different directions, have them up, down, sideways, left, right, whatever, and don't be afraid to stamp off the page. It gives it a more cohesive look to the pattern. I'm going to go around the edges and blend in some of that party dress ink from Catherine Pooler just to tie the card together. And then I stamped the big whopping Merry Christmas stamp from that set onto some black cardstock, white heat embossed it, and glued it down to my card. And wada bang, wada boom. Yeah, here we go. Pretty, 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 and the end. All right. Now, this is the one I messed up so badly. Like, I thought this was going to be the death of me, this card. But I probably resurrected it. Hopefully, you tell me. I'm using that same paper, you guys. This is the third time I used it for the embossing powder funnel, for getting the ink off that blending brush thing, and now here. So I just tore the paper, and I'm going in and adding a little bit of sage ink with a blending tool here, like the little torn paper look. I'm going to do the same thing with the bottom. I'm going to do it twice though, so I'm going in and doing a little blending. Don't worry if you get little, little excessive ink in certain places. It's okay. This is like a very organic, free looking card, so don't worry about that. So I'm just going to go in, whatever. That paper's now done. I don't think I can reuse it anymore. I think I got my work out of that paper. All right, so here are some poinsettias that I stamped in spruce and die cut off camera. So I'm going to go in, this is that Wow embossing pen. I'm going to go in and add a little bit of that ink to the lines of the kind of hill, if you will, that we created. Then I'm going to take some water and I'm going to flick it on. This is not watercolor cardstock, by the way, either, but because Catherine Pooler inks are water reactive, I'm able to get those really cool water splashes. But did you know that embossing powder will stick to water? Check it. Watch. So I put the embossing pen because I wanted a line of it, right? You can't control what the water flicks to. But then I flicked on some water because I also wanted it all flicked on there, all organic like. The key is, if you're using the water, you've got to heat from behind, and it's going to take you about 10 times as longer, 10 times as long to heat set water than the embossing ink, because the embossing ink, that's what it's made for. The water, it's not sticky. So you need to heat up from behind, and you need to just know that you're going to invest quite a bit of time before it melts, but it will work. And I think that look, that like splatter look, is really cool right there. So my card's coming together. I'm very happy with it. I haven't messed it up yet, but give me time. right? So these are some Nuvo, what are these called? Nuvo Aqua brush pens, and I adore them. They're fun, they're easy to color. Again, this is not watercolor cardstock, by the way, so you can use them on regular cardstock. I'm not blending this out with any water or anything. I'm just using the markers as is. Again, Crayola, pencils, crayons, whatever you got, you can go into color. And then once you're done, you can go ahead and figure out where you want to assemble it. I had a whole plan, you guys, a whole plan, and it's about to turn to poo-poo, like for reals. So this would have been the finished card if I didn't mess up this sentiment. But alas, just take a look at this and then just ooh and ah, because this would have been great. But it's me. So I didn't use my MISTI stamping tool, which was error number 1, and look at that. Oh my gosh. Tried to line it back up. A lot of people can do this. I cannot. I stink at it. So I got a little, it doesn't look like it from here, but it's really bad. So then I go and grab a pen and try to trace over it, and that turns to poo. It makes it look worse. Then I'm like, oh my gosh, my lines are too thick. So what am I going to do? So I went ahead and stamped Mary using my MISTI, by the way. So it'll say Merry Christmas. I wish I hadn't have done that going forward, but I didn't know. Then I took a white pen to try to take away the thickness of the black lines. And then I added some white to the center of the flowers to tie the white in that I just added to the word Christmas. And that looks like poo. So then I'm going to go back to the black pen and I'm going to try to fix it. And it's just getting worse and worse and worse. So I'm like, oh my gosh. So let me try to cover up the word Christmas. So I stamped it, heat embossed it, cut it down, and that looked like poo because the Mary that I stamped there is in the way. It's like I've cut off half the word, half the letter. So I'm like, all right, it's just not going to work. So I hacked the whole bottom half off. That whole bottom half under Mary is gone. So I'm redoing this. I'm going to pop up that sentiment, that word Christmas, with some foamed emission. Again, I just stamped it with some embossing ink and heat embossed it with white embossing powder. I'm going to figure I was able to pull the flowers up without damaging my card. So I'm going to refigure how I'm going to put that. And yeah, I mean, it didn't turn out bad by the time it was done, but I mean, can you even? It's like, it was like just getting worse. So then excuse my head. So I stamped the word happy, heat embossed that. And that's going to finish off this card. Oh, good Lord, this card. Oh, I'm rounding the corners. Like that's going to make it so much better. But I saved it. I didn't want to mess it. I didn't want to toss it. I saved it. I like it. It's just not what I had originally planned. But I left this all in here, A, so you can laugh at me, and B, so don't give up on your card. Keep trying to fix it. And then if at all it fails, usually you can just cover it up with a sentiment. Like pop it up on a sentiment strip or something. All right, so I hope you enjoyed today's video. We've got one stamp set 9 different ways. Here's a couple of other videos you might want to take a look at. And if you're not a subscriber, please click that subscribe button. And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up so YouTube will know too. Thanks for watching.